Welcome to the Cumbre podcast. Today I'm hosting one of my best teammates that I played with, a guy that is a very, very, very good basketball player, but you know, the best compliment I can give to him, that how amazing of a person he is off the court. So, Tariq Black, welcome.
Thank you. I appreciate you for having me, OC. Thank you for giving me the platform, man. And I miss you, my brother. Glad to see you.
I miss you too so much, bro. Honestly, you know, one thing when I was thinking about me and you doing a pod together, the first thing that came to mind was, you remember in the beginning of the year, we had this opening night at the owner's house, and me and you we drove there together. It was literally the first, I think, week of the season or so of me and you kind of getting to know each other. We played against each other many times in the past, but and you said something was so beautifully. It was, and you said it. Someone invited you to an appearance or to a meeting, and they ask you, which, you know, it's kind of reasonable, say, hey, we understand if you don't want to go because there may be many people there, and you said, like, no, you know, I have this platform, and God gave me, you actually said God gave me this platform to show my character and to be out there with the people, and to interact. And it was such a, and then it just clicked to me, you know, and I was like, wow, it's such a beautiful thing to say. And from that point on, I was like, you know what, this is like, I love it, you know, I want people to hug me. I want to be out there more, you know, and I really appreciate that. That's the best compliment I give you is as good as a basketball you are on the court, you're even a better person, bro.
Man, I really, really appreciate that. That speaks volumes, and I try to, not even like a try, it's just a personality trait of mine. Like I told you, like we talked about in the car, that I just walk in and I want to be personable. I want people to know that as basketball players or athletes or professional athletes, whatever you want to call it, that, you know, we're people. We're literally people. We're not gods. We're not idols. We're not any of that stuff. We're people, and we want to be amongst the people. And we appreciate that people appreciate what we do for a living.
Oh, yeah, humility is such a beautiful thing. It's such a, you know, beautiful character of a person. But, you know, to me, the game of basketball, I love the game so much. You know, like I've played the game since the day I remember myself. I gave pretty much, you know, not my whole life, but I gave so much to the game because I love the game so much. But there are things that, you know, just more important, you know, the values that we have as people, what we stand for, the things we cherished, our families. And you represent these things to me. You know, you're a family guy. You've always been, you know, honest about your work and everything that you do. And, you know, how did you come about all these things? Just your family, your mom, your family, how you grew up?
Yeah, definitely. So my mom, my dad, both. Like my dad was a neighborhood dad. You know, he was somebody that, you know, I have my two brothers. We live with him, and anybody on our block, they would come over our house, and my dad would cook for everybody, feed everybody, whoop everybody. You know what I mean? It really didn't matter. Like, he just took care of everybody. And so I saw that part, like that big heartedness for people, and there's that love for your neighbor. It just, my dad just exemplified that so well. And with my mom, you know, growing up in Memphis, you know, she would take me around and show me the city and just be honest with me about what people were going through everyday life. And I grew up with individuals who were going through everyday life. I grew up through everyday situations that, you know, we weren't the most fortunate. We weren't living in a house on the hills or anything like that. So, you know, seeing what people are going through, it just humbled me and always taught me that you can take things for granted if you so choose. But really and truly, humility is just set in your heart. It's just something that you are, and it's not something that you try to be. You know what I mean? Right. You don't pick out sentences to try to sound humble. And you're not humble. You just sound it. But it's actually a thing of understanding your placement here on this earth, man, and what God put you here for, and you walking in that, not going above it, not going below it. You know, and that's my thing, is just being me, wholeheartedly me, who I was created to be, and hate me and love me, which I pray that you don't hate me. Never want hate, but just being who I'm supposed to be. And if I do that, I know that it will resonate with the people. Wherever I go, any people group on this planet, it will resonate because I'm here just to spread love. That's what I was made for.
Oh, that's great. That's great. You know, and you know, I think it's a somewhat of a responsibility to all of us. You know, this humility and you know, the young generation is looking up to us in some degree, and I think the way we carry ourselves, the way, we conduct our business, the way we perform on the court and off the court, I think obviously you represent it in such a beautiful way, and it goes a long way. You obviously have so many fans here in Israel, within the Maccabi Tel Aviv organization, within the league, within the country, your fans. I want to give you the platform kind of, obviously you won't finish the season with us, but I want to give you the platform to kind of say what's on your heart and everything else.
Man, I from the bottom of my heart, the depths of my heart, I'm so grateful for my time in Israel. My wife cried. It was a hard decision that we had to come to. Yeah, man, it was a hard decision because we love Tel Aviv, we love Israel, and we'll always be back. We'll always be back and forth in and out of Israel. It'll always be another place that we consider a home. Mm-hmm. But right now during the season, during this time of everything that's going on, it was really hard. It was really hard to put the athlete in me over the father and the husband in me. You know what I mean? And like me and you always talked about, like the conversation you said to me you first had, we talked about our kids, whether we would let them play sports, whether we would let them do things like that. And that's where our hearts first connected. And just that, man, both of us appreciated our roles as God-fearing men, husbands, and fathers over we did the athletic portion. But we love, like you said, we love the game, but it doesn't supersede, our other titles within our household. And so right now in this moment, it just really came out, my priority list of during this season, what's happening. I don't mean basketball season, like season in the world times. And me as a father and a husband, can I put my family on a plane, come back over, play, knowing that my wife is discomforted, my son has been flying back and forth. All these things have been happening.
Oh, absolutely.
Or is it time for me to settle down and to, that core group, start sitting down with my core group and spend this time really with my son growing with me, my wife growing with me, staying safe, staying out of harm's way. And then especially before that decision was made, after, since it's been made, things that are going on here racially, is and being so far from it and not being able to be a root or a pillar in my community here in the essence of it, in the midst of it, a voice of reason and knowledge and wisdom, it's just kind of tough. It's kind of tough to make the decision to come back. And so, it was all internally for me. It was all within my household. But as far as Maccabi goes, as far as the fans go, as far as Israel goes, the Black household loves you forever, is appreciative of our time and of the community. And we just hope and pray that, and as far as the feedback goes, there's no animosity. There wasn't taken the type of way, but people are understanding. And we're thankful for that because we always want to be welcome, because we will always be coming in and going and being a part of Maccabi and Israel in the future and moving forward, just not in the same way. I won't be wearing a jersey, but I'll always be supportive and always be grateful for my time.
Oh, it's beautiful, you're part of the family. Oh, Yalla Maccabi for sure, and when you texted us, our players group chat on WhatsApp and you kind of emphasized everything you just talked about. The first thing that came to my mind was, first and foremost is you and your family. Your wife, your son. You got to take care of your family, and it's not even a debatable thing. Like family first for everything. Your values stand clear to all of us, and we respect your decision. And you always, we always got your back. Like I know when I was hurt during the season, I felt like the guys have my back, and this is what a brother about, is about our team, and we had a really unique, group of guys. One thing that resonated with me is when we had a game in Eilat. It was literally 2-3 days after the game I got hurt, and Otello came up to me, in the warm-ups, and he said to me, "Hey, yo, take your time, no rush, I got you," and I was like, this is such a, it made me, first like. I was okay. I'm ready to get back. Like, I'll do whatever it takes. But on the other hand, it was like, they really got my back, and we all in this together. And so, just so you know, we always got your back, bro. Like family first.
I appreciate it, man. I really, if you remember the group text, one of the things I said was I didn't want to let you guys down. That was the biggest, heaviest burden to me, more so than fans or coming back to Israel, anything like that. That's very important to me too. But it was the letting, feeling like I was letting you guys down, and you guys' response and like you said, understanding and being there in the brotherhood, and camaraderie. It was very important for me. It was very soothing for me, and it really eased my heart.
When we had, when I knew we had a special group, we had a preseason game where I think it was France, right? We drove like the crazy 5-hour drive, and we got to this hotel out of nowhere, and we had this, I think it was a Friday night dinner. It was right before the last game of this little tournament we had. And the entire team, we had dinner and everyone sat around the table and we just debated different subjects that are interesting, right? Like ideological things, right? Like for or against, the Second Amendment, or what do you think of abortion? And then I was, it's not necessarily like the argument that was, taking place, but it was just about the thesis of everything that's going around. Like these guys are quality guys. These guys you go to war with, and the talent is great, but when everyone together and talking about different things and being together in this, that's where you really become, a successful team.
Yeah. No, we did. And even though we didn't agree, like you said, everybody stuck around to talk though. Like nobody was like, "Man, I agree with that, I'm out." But everybody stuck around to continue communicating, and we would sit there like OC for like 2 hours. Like we sit there for like an hour or two, just all kind of different stuff, and the table was never on the same accord. None of us got on the same page. Like we all agreed this right here, but nobody left though. Like we all sat there and just had it out, talked about it, and then it was cool. Like everybody, we disagreed on a lot of stuff and agreed in whatever the case may be. Then we just walked away, and everybody was laughing, joking, playing around. Like we all went back to our room. So that's deep, OC.
And it was actually beautiful to see like so many different aspects. Q and you and me and Scotty and Jake and John D, and it was just different guys, different opinions coming and talking about different things. And it kind of, when a team going through everything we've been going through this year and the injuries and, coming in and out of the lineup, etc., that's like you see, obviously the respect to the coaches and the management to, bring quality guys in. But then, the guys stuck with it, and we just kept playing, kept fighting, and, good things happened to the team.
Yeah, and that's the quality of a veteran group. I feel like this year we really had a lot of good vets in the locker room, and we had a veteran group of guys. Yourself, myself, Quincy, Othello, Scotty, Jake, John D, Jello. You got really guys who have been playing for a minute and who have experienced different things. Q been in the league 7 years coming over. You've been in the league 10 years coming over. Me, 4 years in the league, 2 years overseas. Like you have guys who have broke that threshold of 6 years, 5 years, and have had different experiences of losing, winning, everything. And so you bring that together, and you do have special young talent like Denny. You got Sandy. Zeus. But those like Zeus, very mature. Those guys are very mature too, but they're still young. But then when you like have the veteran group there, the young guys know how to follow suit. You know what I'm saying? They know how to like, okay, this locker room is not going to be real ignorant and da-da-da. These are conversations. Okay, cool. Then they start thinking like that. They get influenced to kind of walk in that way. You know what I mean? So it was special. It was very special, man. But I think it was the best, man. I think we had a really good group of veterans in our locker room this year.
Absolutely. And, one thing that we played during the year, and one thing that it really clicked about you to me is and I think it's not it's unusual to many players, I think, but for bigs it's even more, because sometimes big have their own tendencies and stuff. You pick up things like really fast on the court, right? So we had a game, I can't remember which game was it in the EuroLeague, and me and you, right before we coming out to, jump ball, we're talking, and I'm telling you, hey, Tariq, there's the big fella, he stays way back. Let's attack him. I think it was the game against the team out of Serbia. And you said to me, yeah, you're right. So when you rebound, bring it up, come on the right side or the left, and I'll hit you right back, and you set that screen. I'm coming off, the big ain't showing. I can hit you or I can go to the rim, and we kept putting that pressure on them. That's what got us to such an early lead, and it happened with you. Like, and you saw different things on the court. You know, you were posting up. My guy was kind of falling asleep, and he say, "Oh, see this? You know, when I'm getting the ball in the post, I'm looking at you, and just cut." So literally next play, I'm like, you get the ball in the post, I'm cutting right in, and boom, you hit me. I get a dunk, and all these different things. You know, it was just fun to play together. You know.
Man, it was a whole lot of fun. You know, you showed me a lot with that too. You know, once again, veteran guys being able to see the floor, being able to play the game together, and you know, we learn how to see the game. You start as you get older, and me and you, or neither one of us are old, but you know, we're getting up there in age, and as far as years playing the game, you start to play smarter. You know, you slow down and you start recognizing and seeing the floor, and I think that really happened for me in Houston. You know, I mean, playing with guys like James and CP, they would always look at me crazy because I was a young guy, 24 at that time. You know what I mean? 20, 23, 24,
You're just going
25.
fast. You're going fast every move.
Man, and I'm just this energy ball, just going. And, you know, James CP would always look at me and be like, you don't see this? You don't see this, da-da-da-da-da. And it's like, no. And so I would get embarrassed, though. See, like, it would be embarrassing to me. So at that point, I knew if I got a whole year to learn, like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to slow down. Even if I don't perform as well as far as energy, I'll slow down to see the game. And slowly throughout the year, it just started happening for me. And from that point forward, it just took off of me being able to see things before they happen. But it's playing with guys like Kobe, too, who can see things like those guys see. And you know, right? You know for sure.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
Dudes see stuff before it happens. And when you get to that point in the game is so much easier, you know?
So much easier. And it's actually funny you saying that because I literally, a couple of days ago, I had this conversation with Danny. And I said to him, it's like when you'll get to the league, the game was just going to slow down so much for you, you know, and you're going to be able to kind of execute so many different things over and over again in practice, in pregame, you know, routines and your warm-ups and in the game. And you'll do it over and over again. Obviously, James and, you know, CP and Cope, they're even in another level. You know, it's really hard to get to that level where they watch so much film and they kind of really learn and, you know, became such a student of the game. But for him, you know, I can definitely resonate with it because, you know, even when I started there, you know, in the beginning, you get out of the wind in the first couple of minutes, and suddenly you started to pick it up. You know, you know where to sprint, where to kind of find your rhythm, and I think that will get Danny to the next level because Danny have many tools, and I think these tools going to sharpen up with age, and when the game is really going to slow down for him.
Yeah, now Danny can be very, very special. You know what I mean? I talked to some people about him, and you know, my thing is, what can't he do? You know,
you're right.
At his height and size, what can he do? Like, and especially with how workouts go there, and you know how it goes, it's always skill work. Like, we practice a lot, like over in Europe with Maccabi, and just in Europe, you practice a lot on the game. You know what I mean? 5-on-5, you practice a lot. In the league, it's very little practice and all skill work. It's all individual skill work. Right. Grow your game. And when Danny gets into that and gets into, you know, people tell him to slow down, find your rhythm, find this, and then like teaching them the intricacies and the nuances of the game, young fella, you know, he's going to turn it into something. You know, I can't wait to see it happen.
I agree. Me too. I've seen him develop and progress during the year. And this is something actually in the U.S. that they're doing very well. It's a little bit different in Europe. That it's a personal responsibility to work on your, like, obviously the team is working on your craft, but it's like a lot of individual.
Hey, look, OZ.
Who's over there? Oh, what's going on? I love it.
Hey, what's up, Naeem? Say hey to everybody, Naeem.
Naeem, I miss you. I love it, bro. Man. When it's like you work on your craft and you work on your craft and you work on your craft and then you bring it to the team. This is like a personal responsibility to bring to the better good, and then good things come out of it. And, you know, I just think when Danny's going to be able to be there for, you know, a year, 2, 3, and he's just going to work on his craft, you know, he can really develop into something special.
Because that's the thing he, like, you know, I think he's just being Israeli just period, just because of the culture and the way you all work. The work ethic isn't the problem. You know, it's just the competition and being able to play, obviously, because he didn't get a chance necessarily to play a lot with us because we had so much talent. Like I said, we had a really great veteran group and we were winning. So he didn't get a chance like step out there because we were bad and he just got to go play. So him getting that chance to like get the minutes and the reps in and just play the game, but also like a work ethic is not his problem. Like Danny's there before anybody, leaving after everybody, working, da-da-da. You know, sometimes you got to tell the young fella, slow down. Go home.
You're
like,
part of it. Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you might not feel as much now, but your body's going to catch up to you. You know what I mean? And don't be a frantic about it, about working out, because some things are mental as much as it is the sets and the reps. But his work ethic isn't the problem. So he's going to be there ready to work, ready to put in the work. And that's just going to help him with the psychology behind it all, you know?
100%, 100%. I can definitely see that, you know. And I wanted to tell you kind of something that's sitting on my heart, and I haven't had the chance to tell you that, you know, face to face. You know, obviously when I got hurt, I had to kind of leave to the U.S. and, you know, we were kind of texting back and forth during the time. But, you know, when I came back to Israel, you know, personally I was nervous, right? You know, I've been in the league for 10 years. You know, going back to Israel and kind of, you know, now is my time to be a part of this Maccabi team and obviously expectations and stuff. And I think Maccabi has done an amazing job kind of welcoming me back, you know, and Ami and the owners, Danny and the rest of the guys, the coach, obviously, I always say the forefront is the coach, obviously kind of gelling me into the team. But, you know, the thing I want to get off my chest is like, I really appreciate the way, you know, you and Scotty and some of the other guys that have been there for a couple of years, and you kind of like really welcomed me and made me feel, you know, really a part of this. Like, you know, like welcome back to your home, you know. And I didn't feel like, you know, there's, you know, obviously coming from the league and playing in the NBA or, you know, like, hey, this is me, don't do this, don't do that. Like, I felt like right from the day one, you know, I felt like you welcomed me and you let me be me. And you let me flourish to the best of my ability and to be a part of this. So, you know, from the bottom of my heart, like, you know, obviously me coming back to Israel, it's so important to me. It's like, you know, you going back home and you want to succeed and, you know, your family is there and it's all that. And you guys really, you know, knew how to like separate, you know, everything that's going on around. And obviously, you know, you guys know, obviously a guy coming back from the league and NBA, Israeli, all that around has a lot of impact, but you guys really made me feel like the brotherhood we had in the locker room made me feel like a part of the family, like my voice was heard, obviously, and, you know, so I really appreciate that, bro.
Nah, man, the feeling's mutual, man. We thank you for coming back so humbly. You know what I mean? You could have definitely came back on Mount Olympus, you know what I mean? And really stood in your stature above us, but you really came in and reciprocated that, you know what I mean? And it was always from you, it was always, hey man, I love you guys, let's win, let's come together, let's do this together. And so, you know, we really appreciated that, you know what I mean? Because, you know, we're in your country, you know what I mean? We're on your turf, you know, even if you're coming back, we're on your turf, you know what I mean? And so, more so what you say goes than for us. And so it was actually, for me, it was a huge learning lesson for me, you being the OG to me, to humbly walk back in, you know what I mean? And to come back in and say, man, I don't want to win. It's not about me. It's not my show. I just want to win. And I just want to put it together with one another and let's all play our roles. Let's do what we have to do. That right there was huge, you know what I mean? And so we had no choice but to reciprocate that. To be honest with you, if we're any type of character people, you know, I feel like I was the one who could have more so been like, this is mine. You know, this is my jersey, this is me, I'm back, I'm taking it back. But you came back and was like, it's us. You know, you really made it about us and the group. And so for that, you know, it's our pleasure. You know, we're thankful to be able to humble ourselves today and reciprocate that back, you know?
And that kudos to the team, you know, also for like the management and the guys they put in the locker room. You know, the ownership, the GM, the team, the coaches, everyone that they brought into the table. And that you know, that value obviously goes a long way. But I want to talk to you about a subject, obviously, that's been in the news for the last couple of weeks. And I want to kind of start with, you know, my personal view on things and kind of give you, you know, the platform also to say, you know, to kind of speak your truth. racism has been something that's been on the news, and it's, I want to be very clear on this, like it's such a horrible, horrible thing. Jews over the years, and obviously the subject here is about Jews being, anti-Semites against Jews. Mm-hmm. But racism to the black community is something that, the black community suffered for many years, and 400 years in the U.S. and around the world, etc. And it's just a really bad thing. Like, there's no way around it. It's, from the bottom of my heart, I want to give you the platform to kind of speak your mind a little bit about that, and kind of let's have a little bit, a discussion about the subject.
Yes, sir. Man, it's kind of tough, OC, because as like you said, racism has been around for a very, very long time. And in this moment, when things get heated like this, when emotions are flowing high, I've learned in whatever level of maturity I have to how to weed through the emotions of it and get to the truth, right? Because the truth isn't in the emotions. The emotions might come from a place of truth, but emotions can always amplify something past what you should be doing and what you need to do. And what I mean by that is, because there is so much disdain behind it, because there are so many things that have happened in the past to me personally. I had a situation in particular with a police officer about 2 years ago in Los Angeles, where I was on the curb and my wife was scared for me and things like that. And so, because those emotions are so high, it can boil over into a hatred, into a bitterness, into things that aren't righteous, no matter what's happened. And to me, I personally believe in my own heart. So, I have to be very careful and weed through the emotions. And so, for me, I've just been sitting back. I've just been discerning what's happening. What's the true path for elevation past this to equality, right? Because the whole point is equality, right? It isn't to hate. It isn't to do the opposite and bring a people group here and take another people group down here, right? It's really like what we're talking about here is this right here. Equal rights that as African Americans have been fighting for, since the day that we were brought here on ships, you know what I mean? So that is where I'm working to focus past the emotions and past the experiences. And I think this moment right now is a moment like, I give a basketball analogy that I feel like was in my heart that explains it very well. When you're on a team, OC, and you're winning, but there are a lot of people who are unhappy and being treated unjustly on the team, but because you're winning, you can't say much. Like, how do you disrupt the rhythm? How do you disrupt winning? And you'll be called out and you'll say it'll become your fault. Even if you're being treated unjustly, everybody's like, well, it's your fault. But the moment you lose, right? The moment that hard game hits, you know what I mean?
Them articles come out.
Everything hits the fan. Right. Everything hits the fan because, like, okay, now that we've lost, now that we're not winning anymore, now that I can't be blamed for the discomfort of the equilibrium of what's happening. Now, you start hearing people's hearts. This person in the locker room like, man, I don't play enough. This person, I don't get enough shots. This person, like, coach don't like me. Or the coach even himself. I'm frustrated. And it's like, we've been winning, so it doesn't seem that way, right? And you smile for the cameras, you do the interviews and stuff while you're winning, even though there's underlying unhappiness and underlying corrosion that's happening. And so I feel like that's the analogy that I got from racism in America, that it's always been here. It's never left. You know what I mean? Even with the amendment and even with the amendments to the Constitution and Emancipation Proclamation, all those things, you still had Jim Crow laws, you still had redlining, you still had the KKK, you still had all these things, racist politicians, judges, industrial prison complex, like the narrative goes on and on, right? You know what I mean? But what can you, like, you can say something, but what can you say that won't create the backlash and disdain from the people because America's doing so well? You know what I mean? And you see a prime example of that in Colin Kaepernick, in Black Lives Matters 2-3 years ago, it's not supported like right now. You know what I mean? It's shunned. Colin Kaepernick is blackballed out the NFL, right? It's all these things happening. You better not kneel or it's going to be a problem, right? And now the irony, this whole thing is sparked from a person kneeling on another man's neck and taking his life. And now kneeling is, or Roger Goodell and the NFL, we should have listened earlier, which is a heartfelt apology, and I pray that this is rooted in truth and true in heartness, right? But now you can now that's acceptable. Now it's appreciated. Now, the boycott, the protest is backed and supported, and it's meaningful when it was meaningful years ago. It was meaningful when Martin Luther King was doing it and he was being sprayed with water hoses, the high pressure water hoses that the firemen had, and being attacked by dogs. Mm-hmm. And it still didn't get the job done then. So it's something that's been going on. But like I said, the analogy that I got was just the team, and just now is that time. Now the country's in a space where with leadership and where we are, where we basically lost. We were losing. And so COVID coming around, we're losing. The economy's down. Now, okay, everything gets dispersed, and it's like, wow.
I played in the league for 10 years, and that was my first time kind of getting to know a lot of African Americans and guys that have been in the league, and from my sense of, obviously, some of them are like my brothers, to this day, and I've stayed in touch with many of them, and I've met some of the most courageous, hardworking, family people, smart guys that, their mind, one thing I was really surprised about that is from a mental standpoint, like they always, was for the most part, at a very good page, right? Like they're always saying in the locker room, like, well, you can't control, don't even worry about it and stuff like that, which as a basketball, I didn't know these things. And I was like, wow, that's really deep. And, that really helped them to flourish on the court. And these guys, became the forefront of our sports and our world, right? They're leaders in everything they do. The thing is with racism to me is it's just never going to go away. It's always, for some, it is what it is. It was there 1,000 years ago, and unfortunately, it's going to be there 100 years from today, unfortunately. It'll be, people that are racist to people, and I think us as community, we always got to fight it, and it's just going to be there, It's just unfortunate to me, as anti-Semites and people who hate black people, and obviously that's the focus today. And it's unfortunate, it is what it is. It's unfortunate. We just got to fight it and keep fighting it. And at the end, it is what it is.
Yeah, I agree with you. And that's where I find hope for my community. I actually posted, you remember, OC, when we went up to Poland, and we went to the concentration camp in Poland, and I took a picture of the front gate, and I posted on my Instagram, and in the write-up under it, I said that this gives me hope that, I think 70 years ago, I said 70, 75 plus years ago, if you were Jewish and you walked through these gates, it was a sign of oppression. I said 75 years later, you walk through these gates as a sign of overcoming. You know what I mean? And it's a sign of triumph. Mm-hmm. And that's, for me, what I found hope actually in the Jewish community. And I relate to, and that's why I think Martin King worked directly with the Jewish community heavily. And I think that's a people on this planet. African Americans and Jewish people actually resonate with each other well. I have a lot of Jewish friends here in America. You know what I mean? And we resonate with each other very well because we have a similar happening to us, to each of us, and a storyline of having to overcome. And overcome that that despairing thing. And so for me, I agree with you that it may never be solved in completeness, right? What really is, but it can be something that is thrown into the ocean of taboo, right? So now to be an anti-Semite around the world is taboo. People do it openly because they may have the power that you're not really going to be, but for the majority, it is a taboo thing. And that's what my hope is. If it can't be cleaned out completely, it can become taboo, and those who want to practice it are the outliers now. Instead of it being practiced is the main agenda.
Let's split this discussion. I completely agree with you, and I understand completely. And I want to split this discussion into two. Is like one, from because we fight for obviously equality, and I want to get it deeper. What can we do? What can we ask our government from because I don't want the discussion to be vague. I want it to what can we fight together to change today? What laws, or what do you think? From the government? What do we need to ask our politicians today to fight it?
Well, I'll be honest with you, OC. It's very interesting. I actually don't know if it's a political battle. To be honest with you, I think that yes, I think it has to make its way up to politics, but I think that the power in it is grassroots. And if you look at the African American leaders throughout history, they weren't politicians. You know what I mean? Your W.B. Du Bois, your Washington Carvers, your Martin Luther Kings, your Malcolm X. You know what I mean? Your Huey Newtons, all of them. Everybody that I'm naming, they weren't really politicians, but on the back of their work, you then made it up to politicians such as Thurgood Marshall, wasn't necessarily a politician, but he was a lawyer and later became a U.S. judge. You know what I mean? So then, it works its way up there. But I think it's at this point in time right now where we are in the inception of the movement and working towards, and not even just a movement, but working towards social justice and equality. I think that uprise really starts grassroots within the heart of each and every person, and each and every person taking action, because in a democratic society, the people are the power that controls even government.
No question.
But we can relinquish that power in how we vote, how we regulate our politicians, the standard that we hold them to, things like that. And so, I see a lot, and that's the thing I have discerned too, because I see a lot of talk about Republican, Democrat here in America. And my thing is, I don't look at politics as my savior. I don't look at left or right as my savior.
1,000% with you.
I
don't trust the government to do anything for me, honestly.
You know what I mean? Like I want to get to that point where we hold them accountable. Whoa. We need to hold them accountable now. Don't get me wrong. We need to hold them accountable now. But I want to get to that point where, you're getting people into positions that can make legislation. But even with that legislation, it's really helping bolster the community leaders, people who are at the grassroots level, serving each and every day. Because if I'm president, right, if you put me in office as president, I can't regulate each and every neighborhood to make sure everyone is taken care of. I have to worry about, what's going on in Iran, what's going on in China, what's going on, you know what I mean? Like there are
many things,
global scale things, but that's why in our country, you have laws for nonprofit organizations, foundations, you have the state level, you have mayors, you have so many different layers, because our country's so vast and there's so many intricacies to it that, I feel like it starts at that level. You know what I mean? What can I do in raising my son? Who can I inspire? What we're doing right now in this podcast and having, because that's what I think also too is the most important thing out of everything, a healthy dialogue. I think that it's been so emotional that there hasn't been a healthy dialogue and a sit down to understand and not respond, but just sit down to understand.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, but it's weighty. It's a weighty conversation, right? If I sit down with a white person, not saying honestly what's happened to me and how racism has worked, then it will be disturbing to that person, right? But if they're sitting down not to respond, but to understand, then they will understand that this stuff is truly happening to me and my community. It's factual. It's not just an opinion. It's factual, numbers-based, it's backed, things like that. And it's a true reality of a people group. And same and vice versa. As I sit down with a white person, as they're speaking to me, I have to come from the perspective, I have to understand where they're coming from. And then at that point, we can find an equal ground. At that point, we can find a place to agree upon to have a relationship. And it's not just white and black, it's brown, it's like you said, anti-Semites, right? It's everything is a conversation, right? Because I'll be honest, think about this. In Israel, it's really Palestinian issues.
Yeah. We have that issue, and absolutely. One thing
It's
that is
historical.
interesting you said, oh yeah, one thing is interesting that you said that resonate well with what I think, and is it's, you know, if we can learn something, let's learn from different things that, let's say, the Jewish community has done well, right? And I just, you know, the government to do stuff with us, we need to put that pressure on them, you know. And I'm saying me is like, I'm like literally feeling, you know, you're my brother, so we can talk about this. Like I'm part of it, hopefully trying to find solutions, and I want to be a part of this. So when I look, you know, at the government, you know, we got to put that pressure on them daily, monthly, regulations, etc. And I also think, like, if we learn the Jewish community, right? So the Jewish community over the years have done a couple of things that was really powerful to me, right? The Jewish community, you know, kept a father figure in the house. And this is a problem that I think our community should think about, because I read a really interesting stat the other day that hurt my heart. And I think you actually spoke about it in the beginning. You said, my father was there for me. He was there for the community. And I had a guy in Sacramento who was Hakeem. Hakeem was our security guy, but he was like a father figure to all of us. You know, I got to send him this video, but he's just, you know, he was the guy that you came for an advice, you know, and the father is so important. And I read this stat, and that's why, you know, the stat was, I think in the 1960s, I think kids grew up without a father in the black community, about 20%, and today's about 70%. Yep. And that hurt my heart, because I think a father in the house, like, you know, everyone else on the side, I don't care whatever the government, we got to fight all this, but in the end, it's us. And this is one thing that the Jewish community has done. It was about, you know, family, it was about education, and we got to push ourselves to these standards. We got to, because we can learn from that, you know, and we got to push ourselves, because a black kid isn't, you know, he's better than, he can do anything he wants, you know, at anything, at any level, you know, and if, you know, the system and everything else, but we got to come together as a community. We got to do this as a community and push ourselves to excellence, because there are many, you know, great stories of you know, African Americans coming to great success, you know, and I think that's something we got to push our community to do.
Yeah, and I think it's opportunity and resource. You know, if you put a group of people, any group of people, it doesn't have to be African Americans at all. Any group of people on this planet, because we're all, it's actually one race. I believe in ethnicity, to be honest with you. I don't really believe in race like that. I believe that we're all one race, the human race, but we're different ethnicities, which is to be appreciated. We have different heritages and different cultures and different backgrounds that can actually teach each other something. You know, we all have a traditions and things that we're rooted in that can be helpful for each other. But if you think about it like this, any people group, any ethnicity, if you, as a human being, your primal instinct is survival, right? So if you put, so growing up in Memphis, Tennessee, you know, being around a lot of impoverished neighborhoods, if you have first and foremost created laws and things that place us into a community, right? The project systems and things like that. Then you get in those communities and resources are taken out, right? Education system, terrible. Food access, terrible. Opportunities to go to college, to get educated, terrible. Opportunities for advancement, to be private business owners, right? Like what happened in Tulsa, right? Black Wall Street. Black people were creating a whole different, like their own economic system in this country and taking care of themselves. And white people came and bombed it, right? So if you take away resources, opportunities, things like that, and it's systemically set in place, what else is a people to do? How do I feed my kids? How do I eat? You know what I mean? And so when you look at it like that, then you don't look at it so barbaric, right? But you have to sit down with a person to have a conversation to understand that that's that person's opportunity. Like for me, I made it because I play basketball, you know, but most of the people I had to look up to were drug dealers, basketball players, or professional athletes, drug dealers, or musicians, right? And if that's my three options, two of them are very far-fetched.
Of course.
Very, like, right, 1 in a million opportunities. Now, God bless me, I'm a 1 in a million story. You know what I'm saying? And that's by the grace of God, right? But if you don't give me those two options, and I have a son in this world, I have a wife, and I'm in a situation where my son can't eat, what then therefore happens, right? And so not saying that that's justified either, though. Not saying that it's justified and not giving it leeway of saying like, okay, go what you have to go do. No, because I talk to my own people a lot about make different choices. Take your schools, even if your school systems aren't the best.
Be that guy. You are that guy.
Man.
You're a walking example.
Man, even if your school systems aren't the best, you know, go to school, try your hardest, get your education, the level that you can get, and then go on to college, and there will be opportunities for you. You know what I mean? Yes. You may not be the lawyer, you may not be Johnny Cochran, right? But there is an opportunity if you take it seriously that you can go to law school and that you could be a lawyer in your own home. Go back to your community and make the difference as a lawyer. Yes. You know what I mean? And so with that being said, like, it's just a different perspective that I feel like it takes a conversation to understand, and in partnership, if you've already made that advancement, especially when you're talking about the Jewish community, you all resonate with what we go through. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, it's a direct resonation of what we go through, what we've been through, and having people against you in such a way, and oppression in such a way that the Jewish group guys have formulated Israel, which is beautiful. Your own country. You guys have spread out throughout the world since the Holocaust and been successful and grown, right? And so now, since we can resonate, like me and you sit on this call right now, you can help. Like, if I was in a bad situation, you can help me. Your voice means a lot. Your resources, if you have extra that you can spare, would mean a lot. You know what I mean? And so that is something I would say to you yourself and just the Jewish community, is that stand with us. You know, as a people group who have, like, nobody else can really resonate with your cause, this Jewish cause, with the Holocaust. But I would say Native Americans, from my thought. Now, I may be very wrong, but as far as America directly, Native Americans and African Americans. Those are the two people group that I feel like there is a heart for, that we can relate to each other, band together. And I think that's very powerful. The Jewish community, the African American community come together, OC.
Let's do it, Tom. Goodness. It's a powerful relationship, and it's been there in the 60s with Martin Luther King, and I was at Martin Luther King house in Memphis. But, I'd love to take this offline and keep this conversation going. You know, it's something that is very important to me.
Sir.
You know, many of my teammates over the years and my teammates' families, they always, been so nice to me to invite me to their house, and we became that, bond, and that will probably last forever. That's the thing I miss the most, the camaraderie that we had in the league. But we'll definitely take this offline. I'd love to be, just so you know, I'm always on your right side, thinking about the situation and whatever I can do to help, within Israel perspective, within the Jewish community in the U.S., the relationship I've made and the people I know. So just so you know, I'm always by your side. I love you, and we'll keep this conversation going.
Love you too, my brother, man. I appreciate you. Thank you. Thank you, man. Yes, I miss you, my brother.
Me too. This is it for today. The Homie Cassie podcast with Tariq Black. Such an inspirational guy, one in a million. See you guys next time.